I feel like with wet dreams and knowing if it's just a normal body response or if it's a response to like energies or some astral parasite or somebody like leeching on you in your sleep, it's that feeling that you have in your gut and your heart when you wake up. It's not just like, even if you're in a more positive space of being like, okay, feeling like something was taken from you know, and again, like I was speaking of earlier, the experience within the dream, within the astral worlds of like, you know, the second this is touched, you're in this, you almost feel like you're in a trance, like you're going through this passively, and then it's like sapped out of you. And the frequency again, instead of it being like, you know, maybe every 2-3 weeks, being every 2-3 days, you know, it's really feeling like, okay, there is something that they are surviving off of the sexual energy that they're taking from me in my sleep. And for myself, most of my experience was from, honestly, entities that were connected to over a decade of porn consumption from childhood. That, because it would literally be like, you know, be very normal here, literally be the same, you know, I guess, appearances of people that I watch, understanding internally it's demonic energies that are possessing them when they're on the screen. But even though it was 3-5 years afterwards, it still appeared in my dreams. And then it would be like, you know, like, I don't even know what this type of name is, but I recognized, like, it was intense, it was deep, and I was like, okay, like, I need to do some energetic work and, you know, do some cord. I don't even call it tying, cutting, it's like untying, like, getting it from the root. Like, I don't want the kite on the string, I cut that string and the knot's still on it. Like, no, I need to remove this completely, entirely, set some energetic boundaries, and then muscularly, I don't know if I put that into my work, but like the different practices, like really getting disciplined with the big draw, like if I'm feeling any type of arousal towards the night, like really making sure I'm pumping that up toward my heart and my brain before I go to sleep, to make sure that I'm like setting myself up where the center of my energy is in the right place. And those are some of the
I found that the microcosmic orbit is actually a pretty effective yoga nidra move. You know, it helps to really relax the body, and I'm really grateful for that practice. You know.
It makes all the difference in the world. You know, experience like something as simple, like even like I was at a funeral this past weekend, like I had a death in the family. That's why I haven't been posting as much, or like maybe later. And we're doing well through it. But the biggest thing was while I was there, you know, at the funeral yesterday, was like the focus on the orbit. I'm not saying I wasn't being present, but it's like okay, like let me clear this energy that I'm feeling, but especially with my ground other people, like really doing that service in the real words. Like, okay, I'm not in my briefing, right? That process, like I allowed myself to breathe. When I saw my family members going through it, still it's like, okay, what can I do for them and in this world to make a difference as like become present in this moment in this organism also does change your physical environment. You know, that's one thing you'll notice after 5-10 minutes, like you'll feel the shift. And others might feel it too, or if you have animals around you, like you'll notice that they're like, you got a crazy dog or a crazy cat, or like kids, they're doing something, you do that and chill, they will like 10, even 5-10 minutes, like they shift. Like with my dog, hyper and like running, wanting to play at 9 o'clock at night, I'm like, it's like, all right, I'll sit there and do the orbit and then she'll come, you know, and so.
Yeah, I've noticed this also with you know, groups of meditators and just people in general. You know, your internal, you know, energy work and just a little bit of tantric attention to your body can have a huge effect on your environment. And I mean, people don't even know. You know, it's like, it's kind of like secret magic. It's really cool when you realize your ability in that way.
So like that's one of the main things with, you know, spirit and semen retention and what it is that I'm talking about. It's not like, okay, hold it as long as you can for it. It's more bringing in awareness to the effects of when you spill your seed and how it feels to yourself and in your relationships, but also like you were speaking about what were the variables that had you kind of come out of control. One of the things being energy, right? Realizing it actually takes energy to be able to retain, you know, when you're actually engaging in dual cultivation in know, like when you're engaging in intercourse. So that's one thing, like I've even learned too, where it's like, okay, if I'm on like retaining and engaging in intercourse, I need to be sure that I'm not tired. I'm not physically tired, and another thing is being really hot. Like literally like physically hot, right? Because, you know, when you think about it, that young energy, that hot energy wants to release, it wants to go out somewhere. It's by staying in and staying cool is how it is that we help retain. So it's like those are kind of the two big things. If you're wanting to retain and still engage in intercourse and you feel like you're like, you know, later beginner stage or intermediate, it's important to one, to make sure that you have a decent energy level before you engage, and then two, to make sure that you're staying cool. And I think third, being in the mindset that you want to retain. One thing I found is sometimes I'm just like, man, F it. Like I'm just going like the mind, like you have to get your mind on track with what it is that you're doing in the moment. And be very honest with yourself when you're going into it. If this is something you want to do, or if you need a reset period, which is completely normal. You know, there's one of the, like, you know, in the 90-day experience I had, there's this one reading where it talks about like different methods that different Taoist masters have used. You know, like Mantak Chia uses a method of like, I wouldn't say going as long as you can, but basically extended periods of 30 to 90 days or more plus for retention. There's other teachers that do seasonal, so they'll do like not at all in the winter, and then a little bit, the most you'll do is in the springtime, which might be every week or every other week, decreasing in the summertime every 3 weeks, and in the fall maybe every month, but then the winter is seasonal. There's others that have like every cycle, you know, every 2.5 week type of thing to reset. You know, so it's more of, I feel like one of my goals with this is to get people and to get you connected to the experience of what it's like to consciously retain and still engage, or just to consciously retain. And when you reset, to realize and do that and really work on it when that happens, to release the guilt, to release the shame, to release the, oh, I did something wrong, oh, I was this, I'm off my goal. It's like, no, like, the goal is to become aware of how this connects to you. The goal is to become aware of the prana, the life force. Like, there's even some things I would do sometimes, but not sometimes, like 9 times of the time. If I would release it, either consciously or unconsciously, I would mentally pause for, you know, 5 to 10 minutes to like, mentally reabsorb the prana that's in the essence of the air. You know, or wherever it is. You know, if it was something that was given to my partner, having that time and space for that to be refurbished, like whatever is not absorbed by them, to be able to come back into myself. So that way we're really still in this harmonious place. You know, because sometimes the guilt or the distancing that happens afterwards comes from more of a mental place of like, oh, I've wanted to do this for 40 days, but it only happened 18. Oh man, I gotta reset. It's like, you successfully, you know, kind of speaking specifically like your case, you successfully had your first non-ejaculatory orgasm in the last week. Like that's a massive accomplishment. You know, and then sometimes I found at least when that happens, the muscles, you know, of the original diaphragm, you know, at the bottom, like, you know, right in between the legs at the base, I would say are a little sore or strained, you know, just like if say you're bench pressing and you're like going hard and you're, you know, pumping up, you know, twice your body weight, hit a PR, well, like 3 days later, like it's gonna be a little hard to hit a PR, even maybe to hit that same, you know, 80% of that weight again, because the muscles physically still need to recover. That's something that I found personally, that, you know, after having an experience like that, the muscles need time to recover, so that way they actually can cycle back. It's not saying to not engage, it's saying to be aware, and then again, like you're saying, the point of no return. You know, just realizing, like, once it leaves the gates, you know, it is too, you know, and one of this is something that, you know, some people don't agree with, but just from my teaching, I would say my teachings and what I've learned and then talking to like older men in this, you know, guys in their 60s and 70s, basically once it leaves the gate, you want to let it out, right? Because there's, you know, some practices, it's called retrograde ejaculation, where it comes out the gate and it like squeezes really hard and it doesn't come out of the shaft. But what happens is it's still out of the gate and it's within your urethra, and what it can do, it can infect your prostate and it can get UTIs and a bunch of other issues from like to then work on an emotional and energetic level rather than, okay, like, what can I do physically? It's like, oh, if I'm feeling distance emotionally, if I'm feeling distance in my heart, if I'm feeling a strain, then we need to address this from an emotional level. We need to address this at an energetic level. And one of the best ways, again, is microcosmic orbit. Like I was saying, or I could call the infinity orbit. I guess I'll use hands, right? I'll have my acupuncture hands, but basically, microcosmic orbit is this person, right? It's like this. I'm doing this simple, but I know it can be more complex. This one circle. Then when you get two people, it goes one circle into the other. That's why I call it the infinity orbit, right? You're going to practice that with your partner meditation, and that will help you. When sitting about 3 to 5 feet apart, so really you can give space to really let the subtle bodies do the interaction. And that should help really build back that connection, build back that base of like whatever happened on the energetic or astral level, what that release to cause a strain on that connection. That was just kind of the thing I wanted to say about this. Maybe you released earlier than you wanted to be compassion and communication. And being very like clear and concise about why it is that happened. So if you want to do something different, so that we know, like, okay, I need to do this differently next time. What were the variables that had me like slip up? Like, why did the things that normally do not work? For me, it's being tired, being hot, mentally not being in the right space. By being in the right space, it's not the wrong space, it's being in the right space to meditate. So sometimes we know it's going to be out of like, I'm not in the
You're right. I guess for me, I wasn't really in the mood. I was tired. It was late at night, and I was like, because the other time when it did happen, where I felt like I released, but without releasing my seed, or orgasm without releasing my seed, I felt I had more energy, and it was a couple nights I was just not really feeling it, but I did want to be intimate with my partner. So physically I was tired, spiritually, emotionally, and so that's why I guess it was harder for me to, I guess, try to keep holding my seed, and then my partner, I guess, felt it, and that's why she was like, so it did change kind of like the mood, and like you say, it's good to know that, to accept, what happens, and not feel guilty for releasing, and to know that I went 18, 20 days or whatever days it was, and have that, I guess, approval that it's okay, So I also been feeling like a lot of, I guess too with the baby, like some frustration between me and her, or it's like we both get upset, or a lot of misunderstanding and miscommunication. So, I don't know if it has to do with just too much energy, or just in general in the cosmic or universe, I think the energies do seem a little off. But it's just been kind of a little, I guess I've been feeling a lot of anxious energy, a lot of like nervous or not focused. So I need to start, like you said, it's good before me and her used to practice Qigong together. So that might be an exercise we need to start doing again at, like you say, the micro or breathing.
Definitely. And there is something there with communication and stuff. I've had my own experience with where I volunteer and everything, but I think it's just one thing where it's like, okay, when we know it's an issue or not, then let's work on it. Let's not run away from it. If it's an energetic communication thing, again, you're right, Qigong, that's a perfect thing, and it can take 5-10 minutes while the baby's sleeping, or even when she's chill, and like really letting her bask in that energy in between, like putting her in between the available energy, and letting her or like you're going somewhere else. That's the ego running away from not wanting to be the way, and not doesn't want to be the truth, doesn't want to be the light. You know, like realizing that this is the ego is based on the thought of separation, but what we're moving into is based on consciousness, realizing that we're being critical, hurt others in some type of way. And I'm not even saying physically, just like emotionally, or be like, yeah, bring that in, check that back in. Like, okay, this is my ego talking, that is hurt, that is bruised. But that's not actually there. You know, like Master speaks of, like, I've been asking about Buddhism. It means like, I'm eating, but I'm not eating. I'm talking to you, but I'm not talking to you. I'm walking, but I'm not walking. You get it? He's like, I'm not my body. I'm in my body. I'm around my body. You know? And so it's a whole thing when you like in that state, you know, it's not perception shifts. And then when you're now in this new state of perception, how you think differently and how you receive differently and how you see how to do yourself, realizing that you're really in a space being communicated from a space being connected with God and really come across genuine, sometimes it can be sharp, but it comes across genuine. And the biggest thing is it's another teaching of Buddha, but it's like, you know, there's three types of people. There's those who are like rocks. You know, like you carve a message into the rock, that's like anger, they don't hold on to the residual thoughts. And there's those like you're writing words in sand, you know, you write it and it's there, but then over time it pass away. You know, their natures are difficult to understand. But then there's those that are like water, and it's like you write in water, nothing is retained because they retain no thoughts, they retain no resentments, no spirits, no suffering, they're impossible to understand. And then the whole thing about this is I was reflecting on this statement, and it's like, you know, that's a journey from being rock to water. Is how does rock become sand when it's broken down? You know, how does sand become, you know, water? Like I'm thinking about, you know, like a riverbank, and you can do stuff and the water washes over. Like that's just kind of the process. I feel like I've been like moving from the sand to the water. Like I'm not in the water space. Sometimes I am when I'm in this higher state, but if I'm waking in my normal life, I'd be in this space of like, okay, there's these little disturbances, but like feeling this water wash over, feeling myself like go of this resentment, of this conversation of what it would be, because that's the reason we're suffering, that's the reason we're getting mad and we're communicating, because we're actually not being present in the moment. We're making the past into the present, and we're looking at the back and replaying the story over and over and over and over again, rather than being present with ourselves and being present with the moment and seeing someone where they're at right now. And sometimes even with where they're at, they're bringing something back from the past, but being able to lovingly be like, hey, like I love you, I care about you, but you know, I didn't ask you about 10 years ago, I didn't ask you about yesterday, I didn't ask you about last week. What's happening between us now, because I love you and I care about you and I want to communicate with you and get to a place of understanding. Like I want to be in a place of unity with you, and I understand we have some dissonance. How is it that I can best do this? You know, what is it that we need to let go so that we can continue to walk forward? What is it that we need to let go so that way when something new comes into our life, we can actually accept it? You know, and then when we have these trials, learn to embrace them as experience, because there's going to be somebody in your life later on that the same experience, that suffering you experience, or whatever that was, will be a teaching moment for you to others, for them to not have to go through that same thing, if it is that they choose to listen. Or it's even just a level of experience for you to be able to be compassionate with others that come into your path. So that's just one thing I feel like, you know, communicate, do qigong with the baby in between. When you're communicating, maybe doing it afterwards. Like if one have like a little rule, when the volume starts to get high, take a break and do some like breath work for 5 minutes. You know, meditate for a split second for like 60 seconds. You know, like take a pause, let the emotions pass through rather than grasping. Because that's one thing that's been like really difficult. It's one of the most difficult teachings, but it's like grasping, right? Because, you know, the New Age spirituality will teach you falsely that, oh, you don't want to grasp onto the negative, focus on the positive, focus on the positive. But the issue is that you're still grasping onto something. You're still grasping onto something. the suffering comes from grasping, right? We're in a nature, we're in a place of, samsara is a place of duality, right? We move into unity by letting go of this attachment, not by grasping onto positivity and hoping that everything's positive, but it's releasing the need to identify things as positive or negative in the first place. And I find where I'm at now is more like, okay, when these positive things are happening in my life, how do I still enjoy them without grasping? When these negative things are happening, how do I enjoy them without grasping? And the enjoyment comes differently. To me, the enjoyment is in a space of like accepting, when say things you would assign as negative, accepting them as lessons, accepting them as teaching moments, to all the time spent in the mat and meditating and mantras and qigong and stuff. Like, am I going to pass this test? Can I stay in this state of mind while I'm in the midst of being confronted or having conflict, or someone's yelling at me, or someone's trying to insult me, or I'm getting triggered, or like letting myself move through that? When I'm in a positive space, okay, you could say in that, like, how am I going to keep myself from grasping to like letting someone inflate my ego or letting that bring me up? Because the whole thing about one of the ways to get out of ignorance and greed and anger is being equanimous. And what equanimous means is being able to be in this state of peace consistently. It's not highs and lows. It's not even being high. Because for something to be high, being something high depends on something being low. Something hot depends on something being cold. Something being wealthy depends on something being poor. They can't exist without either one, right? So it's a whole thing where we want to stay high, well, there's going to have to be something in reference for it to be low, right? So it's a whole space with being equanimous emotionally, is learning and making peace with kind of having this level that we experience. And I guess you could say, for the way that we can understand in our human level right now, is that level increases in its height per se, but it's more of like being okay with being in a peaceful state. And okay, when the highs come in, like when it rains outside, it's like roof on the ceiling. When the sun comes in, it's like sunshine on the ceiling. One's not better than the other. Too much of one is like can lead to some serious issues. And Shi Hung Yi, says, and with all this stuff, and like it is it's like a Shaolin teaching, but like don't push, don't pull, and when something's swinging, like when something's going away from you, don't push it away, because you're pushing it farther, it's just going to come back and hit you in the face. When something is swinging towards you, don't pull towards it, because then eventually you're going to have to let it go. And so it's a whole thing about this where it's like, it's still, what am I doing? I'm grasping onto something. The whole thing of being equanimous is letting this swing and then not grasping, but being able to enjoy the perspectives and being enjoyed.
I had a question. So I got 3 points. So I do like, it's funny that you bring up doing Tai Chi with the baby, because I've done it like 3 or 4 times in front of her, and she likes it. She sees me moving, and she's real calm, and she senses the energy.
Yeah.
So that's really nice. So yeah, that's a good point. Maybe me and Annabelle could start doing, Qigong or Tai Chi together. Maybe, like you say, in front of her, or have her in the middle. That'll be a good connection between the 3 of us. And then also, I like how you said, in relationships, not what happened yesterday, 10 months ago. I was living in the present moment and just communicating, and that's really good. And the third thing too is, so like you say, when like pushing and like it's not attachments, but it's like with money and finances, like with money, you need it to like have shelter, you need it to have food to provide for your family. So it's like, how do you use that theory with the swinging thing? You're trying to grasp it, but yet like sometimes it feels like the more you try to get it, the further it goes away. Or sometimes, it just comes and flows when you least expect it. So finding that balance of, I guess everything in life, finances, relationships, babies, your time, my time, everyone's time, and then it's like, yeah, just, I guess, life in general.
Yeah, man, that's a difficult question. I will say, like, I have an answer, but it's not the answer. I think it's one of the things, it's like, as I reflect on this and see it in my life, it's, with one of the things Master was talking about on Friday, I'll share that recording with you. But he was talking about like how important it is to express gratitude and be grateful for where we're at all moments. You know, when we're in these stages of when money's tight and when we're in the stages of when money's abundant, to be grateful for it and to enjoy, and especially like things that we take for granted, like your lungs that are breathing for you right now, your heart that's pumping for you. When's the last time you actually thanked your heart? When's the last time you thanked your lungs? When's the last time you thanked your hands for grabbing and for driving you safely home? You know, it's like, as you know, esoteric and out there it might sound, it has a way of bringing you into the moment of like, okay. And the whole thing about that is like, you know, one thing he's been getting me about is like stress management. And it's not like doing less, but it's more in a way doing less of mentally trying to control everything, that I know everything, and sometimes you gotta like let it go. You know, like you said, like, you know, if you're chasing money, that means it's running from you. Why are you doing that? You know, like if you're gonna chase after, that's the whole dynamic. You know, you're never gonna be satisfied. And yes, there's a whole, you know, that's the other part of that quote where it's like, you know, those who are like letters carved into the rock, they're easy to understand, they're not easily satisfied, and they chase things. Like that's a type of person. It's not a very evolved person, but it is a type of person. And like the biggest thing I feel like in the social media age is to not get lost in the sauce of when we see people like this thinking that we're doing something wrong or that they're doing something better than us. Because yes, they might have these money things, but also like one thing is realizing that, you know, people suffer from poverty by always wanting more. You know, they want a bigger house, they want land, they want to be able to pay their bills, they want this. But then people who have a lot of wealth are also suffering from wealth. They're worried about how much taxes they have to pay, or, you know, if they're going to get broken into, or people using them. Like, they're experiencing suffering too. I think the biggest thing is, again, to be very, very grateful for what it is that we have, and to be anchored in that, because, you know, as things increase in our life, as things decrease in our life, again, that comes into the equanimous space, to be able to be like grateful for that. I'm not saying deny money, that it's not a good thing. I'm just saying it is an important thing, it is a tool. But when we start to let this mentally control us, when we start to let, you know, the relationships that we're in keep us from feeling like we're doing the right thing, and we start to chase after that thing, it takes us outside. But I mean, outside takes us outside of ourselves. Like, one of the things that, you know, I feel like the circumstances in my life, what I've been called to realize, it's about my direct communication. It's about this line. If I'm going outside, that's why I might satisfy something really short term, you know, but I'm not going to really be addressing the issue. You know, like, I feel like it's like, instead of listening, like, I don't know, like if someone has back pain, it's like taking ibuprofen rather than like looking into it, feeling into it, be like, oh, you know, I might need to strengthen my core and like go for walks, or I might need to lose weight. Like something internal, like, okay, let me stop this, but it's actually not stopping the problem, it's just numbing it. You know? So I feel like when it gets into these other things in life that have the fluctuations, to see it for what it is, it's a fluctuation. But the one thing that we can learn how to navigate and to control and to manage is our mind. The one thing we can learn how to navigate, manage, and control is our hearts, and to be able to listen to that. And when it gets into these other things, like, okay, money is something that needs to be addressed. But then it's like, okay, does that need to be addressed, or is it a relationship with greed? Is it the way that whenever something comes, it leaves fastly because we feel like we need more, or that we're not, you know, being grateful for what it is we have, so we're actually getting things we don't need or we actually don't want. What we're doing is doing something in order to appease or to put a pain reliever on something that's a lot deeper, but it's easier to buy something rather than to sit with what it is that's going on inside of us, or to have a conversation with somebody. You know, is it when we're in these low points, and is it a place with greed? And this is something I've been really dealing with greed, with not being grateful for what it is that I have, and the abundance and the wealth that, you know, some people would wish that they had. You know, and some of these things might not be material. It's just relationships, and it's my health, it's awareness, it's knowledge, it's wisdom, it's friendships. You know, it's the things that things cannot buy. And that's not saying money's bad, it's just that there's some things that people wish they could buy, that I'm grateful that I have abundance and so much that I share with people freely. And I think sometimes we get called into these cycles to learn something. You know, just like, you know, we were doing crypto stuff, right? the bear market is there to teach people something. It's a lesson. It has to happen. The winter comes for some, like, it's there. That's when a lot of the weak stuff dies away and it gives space for new things to grow in the spring. Like, that's a part of the cycle. And so likewise, when those things happen in our lives, it's not wishing for Friday, it's not wishing for summer that's going to actually make things go away. That's just going to create a deeper cycle of suffering. It's rather embracing and learning to enjoy where we're at. And then, still, like he says, when you fall down, sit. Why did I fall? What do I need to do differently? When you get up, stand. What are you standing for? When you walk, are you walking with God or are you walking with your ego? Like, what are you doing? Like, what is your destination? What is your plan? Do you have faith in what is it you're doing? Do you believe in yourself, or do you believe in what somebody else is doing? Are you believing in the charts? Are you believing in like someone else's words and criticisms based on what you need to do in your heart, even though it might not make sense? And so I feel like that's one of the answers. I'm not saying it's the answer, but I feel like that's something that I've been wrestling with too a lot. And when I'm in still and I listen to Master Kao Chen, and when I'm like really still in my meditations, it's like you need to learn to find this value deeply in yourself. Like, I was watching Aladdin yesterday, Aladdin, and the whole thing is about finding a diamond in the rough, the person who all of their value is within. And then that person became a king, why? Because he was able to handle these things, because he understood the only value that lasts is inside of him. Everything else is passing. It withers and it goes away. It fluctuates. That's the nature of it. And the things that we want, this stability, because I was talking with Atul and he was saying this too. He's like, he got a lot of peace in learning to embrace uncertainty, even though that goes completely against what us as men, what we want to do. We want to be certain, we want to be stable, we want to have this and this. And I would say that's when it's something like a tree. Like, yeah, know your root systems, know this, but be flexible to move. And if the tree breaks, like, learn how to float on it and get to another one. Like, I think that's a big space on it too. Or even if something breaks, get really honest why and what things did we ignore with, I need to get this right. It's not, it's a money thing. It's a money thing. Is it a money thing, or is it a communication thing? Is it a self-confidence thing? Is it a courage thing? Is it a, what is it? Like, Master Kao Chen got on me because he was like, bro, like, he's like, you need to change your thoughts. Like, you need to learn to give stress away to God. Like, you don't have, you're creating problems for yourself that are unnecessary. Like, you need to give things away, and giving things away is mentally giving things away instead of trying to do everything myself. Learning how to ask for help, that's a massive thing. I know I've been going on a lot, but do you have anything else? And we could do a short qigong thing. This was more question, which I'm grateful for. But yeah,
no, I appreciate it. So yeah, this has helped me a lot. Seeing, like, living in the present moment. It's okay to release my seed and be happy, yeah. So I have a lot of gratitude, that's what I try to practice every day. Grateful for my house, grateful for my truck, grateful for my baby, grateful for my family, grateful for my friends, grateful for this moment you are having now, that, and our friendship we shared throughout the years, and some people don't have this, they don't have family, friends, house, food, water, and yeah, I try to be grateful every day for the little things we have, the air we're breathing, the light switch of electricity or water for a toilet, in some countries, places they don't have that. So I do try to practice gratitude every day. And I try to instill that in my baby every day. I say affirmations with her. I tell her, you're strong, you're grateful, you're healthy, and you're confident. And I try to instill with her, just little things, from I love you. And I try to do that with her every day, just those affirmations. And then, and the money thing too, I guess in society, it's like a big thing, it's like, like you say, like in social media, you see these people making millions, billions, and it's like, oh, I want a piece of that, or, I want to be, financially free too. So, and I guess for me, it's good for me, I guess, I want that financial freedom to provide for my family, or, like friends or going out and doing little things and have that freedom to, you know, do those nice little things, you know, like pay for a meal or take them on a vacation, or, you know, just, you know, it feels nice to give back too, you know. So um but yeah, you know, in the end, you know, it's just gratitude and having, you know, grateful for everything we have. And so yeah, I guess that's what I'm trying to get with, like, you know, like the crypto stocks and everything. It's like, you know, like you say, you know, sometimes we need these bear markets because it's like, man, we're doing really good in the bull run, and then all of a sudden this bear market, this winter hits, and you're like, man, your thing just drops 90% or more, and you're like, wow, you know, it's
Yeah.
like the lessons of life.
Yeah, man. And then even with that, it's like, you know, you don't have to disclose because I am recording this, but it's like when we've made what it is that we wanted to make, why isn't that we move forward on it? Why isn't it that we did the things? You know, like we need to look back, and that's what I was talking about with greed, you know, about, well, we want more, we want more. And even when it comes to giving, like wanting to help people, it's like, okay, if we don't have those things to give, we could give a smile, we could give time, we could give, you know, like a cooked meal at someone's home if we can't take them out. We could, it's like, what is it that we can do to get in that habit and that energy of giving, so when the abundance comes, we know what to do with it, rather than wishing we had more. You know, then, oh, if I had this, then I can't, so I'll wait. You know, it'll be, or, oh, you know, when I had this, okay, then I'll wait. You know, rather than being able to see, okay, this is a blessing here, and then I can handle it. You know, like one of the biggest things is like asking God for what it is that we can handle. Because like one of the biggest things, I feel like, you know, he uses the word Satan, but like when that energy gives you things, it gives you things you can't handle on purpose. You know, like it gives you, oh yeah, this is great, and then what? Because it causes a self-destruction. You know, and so it's a whole space to, I feel like, to be very honest with ourselves and be humble, and then also trust that we are, you know, a part of getting into the space to be financially free is being spiritually free, being emotionally free, you know, in that way. And that's a mindset thing, you know, because some people might be financially free, that just means they can pay for things, but, you know, like what else is going on in their life that you don't know about, that they're financially free, then why are they showing you all these ads and flashing their cars online to get you to buy stuff? You know, like the people I've met that are financially free don't care, they don't talk about it, they just help people, like people who I've liked that I want to emulate my life after. It's not the people who flex and have the cars and stuff, because to me that doesn't look like freedom. That looks like someone imprisoned to their income and what they're doing basis on them broadcasting their ego online, and if they don't get to do that, something gets disrupted. That doesn't feel like freedom to me. That feels like a prison with that's made out of diamonds. You know, like it doesn't feel free to me. And I think one of the things is to like not get lost in the sauce and get really clear with what freedom means to us. Yes, money's important and bringing it in, but then also with that, at the same time, nurturing our emotional health, our spiritual health, our physical health, especially our physical health. Like without health, you know, all the money that comes in just goes into that way to keep you alive. You know, I seen it, you know, I was at a funeral this weekend, you know, and I've seen it, you know, like a lot of the focus, you know, she got very sick, and she was always really sick, and that's what happened, you know, but it was because her mental health and her emotional health wasn't the best, and it really destroyed her, and it was hard to watch, but that's what happened. And then there's other people I've noticed that, you know, like they get really sick after they, you know, retire, and then their 401ks and multi-million-dollar packages go to pay for their medical bills for the rest of their life, you know, or their great insurance, but they can't even enjoy their life because they sacrifice these things. You know, they ignored one aspect of their life thinking that it was separate, but it's all the same. And I feel like in the like kind of financial spiritual mantra, they make people feel guilty, like they're not spiritually advanced because of a temporary financial situation. But I feel like what it is, it's how it is that we relate to this energy and how we use it when it's here, you know, like rather than the amount that you have. It's like, you know, a garden in the backyard, like how is it that you manage 5 plants? It's not that you're better or worse than someone who has a farm. It's just that to get to a place to have a farm and to grow all the food you need, you first need to be able to manage 5. And then with how you manage 5, then you'll naturally grow over to be able to manage 10 and then 20 and then 100. Like that's just the process of it. with other things in life, you know, like people want a bunch of kids, but like, you know, you got to just get good with one. You know, like, you know, people, like, you know, in the workspace, people want the promotions, but what about the responsibility that comes with it? You know, like, are you ready to actually handle and step up into that level? You know, so it's a whole thing that I even ask myself questions with, you know, things I've done and things I've said. But that's just one thing I feel like, because a part of another financial freedom, one is you need to know tax law really, really well. Like really well, especially where in the United States, that's a part of it. And knowing how to navigate, how to move, like in very, very many ways, and having the energy go into that and realizing that's where the time goes. It's not like this passive, I'm going to sit and not do nothing. It's like, nah, the time then switches to get there by understanding how the laws are written, or even building those emotional health and relationships to be able to attract and communicate well with that accountant that keeps you in that space, you know, rather than just going on Google and clicking on the first person. You know, like it takes healthy relationships and relationship health and healthy communication and healthy emotional like intelligence to be able to get to that space. And so that's why I'm talking about all of these things together, because it's like most people, you know, like that's another thing in the Tao. It says, you know, success or failure, which one is more destructive? You know, like look in the music industry, look at Hollywood, look at professional sports. People have destroyed their lives from success. And likewise, people have destroyed their lives from failures. It's not being careful what we wish for, but just realizing the thing that's been resonating with me the most is being a quantumist, like being in this space where through these cycles, we're not letting the external define our internal. We're not grasping onto the outside to feel like, oh, I'm doing the right thing now. Oh, I'm doing the wrong thing. It's more like we'll know we're doing the wrong thing by feeling internally what it actually feels like to do it. We'll know we're doing the right thing by feeling internally what it feels like when we're doing it. You know, and when there might be a little dissonance on the outside about what, you know, our ego or what others are saying about it, realizing it as dissonance and making a choice not to grasp onto that, but being able to like, okay, you're projecting this onto me. Then we could say it, or we could just be like, do I need to say it, or do other people see it as clear as day? You know, do I see it as clear as day? And it's just a part of, you know, being the example, to be there and to receive it and just be like, okay, are you done? So, yeah, man, that's just kind of, I feel like where I'm at with all that, especially with the crypto stuff, because, you know, being in a space where it would have worked, or did that actually save us? Did that actually save you from all the things that we see are happening with the banks closing and, you know, even with Voyager, like having all those things of doing that, and that business doesn't exist, and now Voyager's based out of Binance, and we're in Texas, and you can access Binance in Texas. Like you could have had, you know, a good amount of things that you needed to pay tax-wise, but not had the ability to access them, or had to move to a different state to access an account. You know, like real stuff. Like you might have actually been saved from whatever it was, from choices and decisions, that things that we didn't see coming. You know, sometimes rejection is God's protection. It's a redirection, you know, for us to do something right. You know, like you know, you might not have got like out of the crypto cycle, you might not have gotten, you know, the financial wealth, but you definitely have another person in your life that's definitely like lights up your world and is one of the best investments you'll ever make, is your child.